What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Week 12 market review in the NFL. We're going to be going through every game today and giving you guys my thoughts, opinions, a few angles that I'm looking at, and how I'm going to bet some of these games. Coming off a Week 11 that was not kind to me. We started off really well on Thursday with Thursday Night Football. I hit a 2-unit play on the Eagles. And then Sunday was just a bad 1-5 day for me on Sunday. And all the bigger plays that I had ended up crashing and burning in the fourth quarter. The Chiefs, we had the Chiefs in a teaser that the first leg already hit. We just needed them to cover 8.5. They lose by 9, so a half-point loss. We had the Jets total. They score like 40 points in the second half combined to go over. The Bengals at night, they're tied with the ball in hand late to win it. You saw how these games all ended up. So everything was alive going into the fourth quarter, I think, except for one play, and everything just went down. So rough Sunday for me, looking to bounce back this week. So before we start, I do have a free play posted already for you guys on Thursday Night Football. That plays on the Action Network app. That is down in the description below if you want to download the app. It's a great tool. I use it every day to handicap games. A lot of great articles, expert opinions on there, and I put all my free plays on there as well. So check that if you're interested down in the description. All right. Thursday Night Football this week. I actually think this is a pretty good game. You got the Steelers taking on the Browns. The Pittsburgh's laying 3.5 on the road. The total here is set at 36. And that total might jump out at you at first, but there's a reason why. We'll get into it. First, let's just talk about the spot. The Browns come out of their bye week. Now, I was on the Browns on Sunday getting 1. I had Browns +1. They close as a -2-point favorite. So we get the best of the line. And of course, when you usually get the best of the line, it just doesn't matter. And they get blown out in that game. They lose by like 3 touchdowns. And I was shocked at how flat they came out of their bye week. I thought they had a really advantageous matchup against the Saints because the Saints are really bad against the run. But I think what you saw is, which is what I did not catch on to, is that Nick Chubb I think he's finished. I mean, like the old explosive Nick Chubb is gone. This is just going to be like a meandering running back. I don't want to use the term washed. It's like a disrespectful term, but he's not, the explosiveness is not there. So Chubb looks to be done. There goes the Browns running game. They don't really have one outside of him. And Winston threw the ball pretty well, but the defense played horrible. I was stunned at how bad the Cleveland defense played. And it looked like they didn't even know who Taysom Hill was. They weren't even ready for him. Now they head back home. They're a home dog, much different scenario, and they get a divisional opponent that just came off of a huge divisional win. The Steelers win an ugly game at home against the Ravens as underdogs. This is your classic, if the Browns look like they had a little bit more life on Sunday, this is the classic comeback and smash the Browns in this game. Classic home divisional dog with the other team coming off of a huge win, back-to-back divisional games. Like, it's all there for Cleveland. But I think the stronger look here is on the total. The weather's going to be really ugly in this game. They're projecting a lot of rain, 80% chance of rain sustained throughout this game. Really high winds. At first, it was like 15, 16 mile-per-hour winds. Now we're looking at 20 to 25 mile-per-hour winds with gusts that could even go higher than that. And that's why this total went down. It was 37.5, 38. It's now sitting at 35.5, 36, depending on where you look. So the steam has come in. I think there's also been a few releases on the under as well. I am personally on the under. I got 37.5, so that number is gone now. But for me, it's playable to 35-ish. So I like the under this game. I think it's going to be your classic, run the ball, divisional game late in the season. There's also a pretty profitable system of divisional games after week 10. They're like 61% when the total is below 43. So you've got that active on this game. And I would lean to the Browns in terms of the point spread. The only thing that concerns me is what I just talked about, the running game. I think this is going to be a game where muddy conditions, maybe slushy conditions, where you need to keep the ball on the ground, and they haven't shown that they are able to do that. And Nick Chubb did not look good to me on Sunday against a pretty bad rushing defense. So if you're going to have to rely on Jameis Winston, who's already erratic and volatile as it is, having to throw the ball in these conditions, I think that's going to hinder you a little bit. So a small lean to the Browns, but I like the under better in this game. All right, on to Sunday. You've got the Chiefs taking on the Carolina Panthers. Kansas City's laying 10.5 on the road. Totals at 41.5. Couple of things I'll say about this game. It looks like a Chiefs bounce back spot coming off of the loss to Buffalo, but the Chiefs never cover these big spreads. All right, I don't say never, but Mahomes with a spread of 7 or more is like 42, 43% against the spread. He's great at keeping games close. The Chiefs win tons and tons of close games, but when they get these big point spreads, they rarely cover them. So smalling to the Panthers, the only thing about Carolina is it's kind of interesting. They come off of back-to-back wins as 7-point dogs, because remember, they were a 7-point home dog to the Saints. They win that game, divisional game. Then they go to the I think it was Germany, the overseas game in Germany, and the line gets steamed up from Giants like 4.5 all the way to 7. Excuse me, and the Giants lose the game outright. So the Panthers now have back-to-back wins as a 7-point dog. So it's almost like they're, now you're getting 10.5 at home. Obviously, it's the Chiefs, but it's almost like too good to be true. A small lean to Carolina in this game for me, but I almost think what if the bye week kind of upset disrupted the groove that they were in a little bit. They have looked better. They've been competing more, but at the same time, it was the Saints and it was Derek Carr's first game back from the injury. And then it's the Giants, and the Giants just benched Daniel Jones. So what do you really take out of that game? I think the Chiefs will be motivated here, so I think they'll win. But I could see maybe the back door being open late. It's a 17-point game, ball in hand for Carolina. I could see that. So the 10.5, small lean to the Panthers here. Another thing worth noting is the total sitting at 41.5. Games that have a point spread of 9.5 or more, they go heavily to the under. Over a last decade plus, so you're looking at like 12 years, they're right around 59% to the under. So the script for these games tends to be, the favorites up big, and they just kind of run the clock out at the end, and that leads to a lot of these unders cashing. So lean under in this game, but more so a lean to Carolina getting 10.5 points as a home dog. Again, it just feels like one of those classic games where the Chiefs win it, but maybe they don't come. Maybe they're up 14 late and there's a field goal or a touchdown and they win by one score. I just could see that happening in that one. The Lions taking on the Colts. Detroit's laying 7.5 points on the road in Indianapolis, and the total set at 50.5. Man, this is a game where you would love to bet. I mean, getting a home dog like the Indianapolis Colts is so appealing because they're going to want to run the ball on you, right? With Taylor and with Richardson. They chew clock, but at the same time, Richardson has the potential for explosive plays. So you kind of have this high variance underdog with a, slightly risky quarterback, but someone who's going to try to make plays. That's exactly what you want when you were going to bet a big dog. You want a high variance spot, but the Lions look spot proof right now to me. It doesn't matter when you catch them, where you catch them, what the number is. They're looking to blow everybody out. They're looking to beat every team by 30 plus points. And I think that they know, one of the interesting things that got me really high on the Lions was Dan Campbell's comments last year after they lost to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. And they had a lead in that game and squandered it. And one of the things he said afterwards was that they may never get this chance again. Like you got to take advantage of the time where teams are not expecting you to, but and he's like basically saying like going forward, they're going to expect it. Like we're now going to be the target and we may never get the chance again. So that attitude I don't know how he's doing it, but he's getting everyone to buy into that of like, we may never get this chance again. So they're going all out every week. So when I see the spread, of course it looks inflated. Of course it's a huge number on the road against a capable team. It's not a dog shit team like the Indianapolis Colts. But it's just like, doesn't matter. They probably still win this game by 2 touchdowns or more. So I would actually lean to Detroit. I think they're solid in a teaser leg or as a teaser leg, although I'm trying to avoid teasers. They've been bad to me this year. But lines in a teaser, I think they win the game. If the Colts cover, I think it's probably backdoored. I don't think this is a game where Indy is live to win it out, especially as they just won a game outright against the Jets. And one of the things with the quarterback situation, like they go Richardson, Flacco, back to Richardson. Yes, that maybe that helped Anthony Richardson, but we also saw this with Anthony Richardson in the first game of the season. He looked great against the Texans in that first game, and then it all went downhill. So now he comes off the bench. He looks great in the first game against the Jets. Everybody looks great against the Jets. What does he do against the Lions? I'm willing to bet it probably is a dud game for the Colts. But at the same time, there's angles for both sides here, which is probably why it's just a pass for me. The Buccaneers are on the road taking on the Giants. Tampa's laying 5 at New York. Total's at 42. This is another weather game, by the way. Watch out for the wind. It's supposed to be a bit windy for this one, so you maybe could look at the under. But the Giants obviously make the switch from Daniel Jones to Tommy DeVito for some reason. He played a few games last year. I don't know why you wouldn't go with Drew Lock, but Tommy Cutlets gets a start for the Giants. The number's just too big. Daniel Jones has played really badly this year. So this is not your typical like bring in the backup quarterback situation where it's a huge drop off to the point spread. I actually think it's not that big of a drop off. So the number here is just too big. I would lean to the Giants if you could get 5 or 5.5. Both teams are coming out of their bye week, so it's kind of an interesting spot. Neither one has a rest advantage over the other. just an ugly game. But when you get average teams like Tampa laying this many points on the road, like I could understand a 2 or 3 point, a 2 or 3.5 point spread. Laying 5.5 on the road. I know Tampa can be explosive offensively, but it's too much. It's too much for a team that's, Daboll's probably coaching for his job. So a little bit of a tricky spot, but I would lean slightly to the Giants with the quarterback change. Maybe you get the quarterback boost like we've seen a lot this season. Put in the backup, gives you a little boost in that first game. So watch out for that. Patriots versus the Dolphins. New England's getting 7.5 on the road. Totals at 46. We've seen this steamed up a little bit, so money coming in on the over. I actually think the Patriots are a good bet in this game. Getting 7 points is a bet that I'm looking at, considering taking. It's a divisional game. Divisional games later in the season tend to play closer, and you've got the Dolphins now with 2 straight wins, kind of feeling themselves a little bit. Good mojo for them with that win at home against the Raiders last week. But the Raiders, I thought, played better than the final score would suggest. They were in that game for most of it. They were able to move the ball offensively. I thought they played better than the final box score or the score would lead you to believe. And I kind of like how Drake May has been throwing the ball. So I think the Patriots could be in this game and hang around to the very end. So I like the +7 with New England. That's where I lean in this one. And Miami, although they can be explosive offensively, again, the Patriots have played them many times. They know how to play teams like this. They know how to play in their division. And on the other side, like I said, I think the Miami defense is a little bit susceptible. And I like how Drake May's been throwing. He makes some silly mistakes here and there, but overall, he's good in the pocket, good pocket presence, doesn't scramble into pressure like you see a lot of young quarterbacks do. Is something I really like about him. And just not afraid to make some timely throws, some big throws. So I kind of like the variance that he brings as a large underdog, the way he did in the Bears game. They won that game outright. So a little bit of a lean here to the Pats getting 7. All right, the Vikings are on the road in Chicago. Minnesota's laying 3.5. Totals at 39.5. The Vikings get that win against the Titans last week on the road, laying 6. 23-13 was the final, but really, that was, again, a final score that I thought was just a little bit like I thought the Titans played well in that game. And the back door was open several times. The back actually threw a touchdown pass that got called back. Will Levis did. So I thought he played okay. They just couldn't, and I thought that their defense was good against the Vikings. I think the Vikings offense is part of the handicap here that I'm like pretty hesitant about. Ever since they lost the left tackle, I'm blanking on the name, but ever since they lost their left tackle, it was a great left tackle, Darisaw. They just haven't looked the same. There's been pressure getting in there. Darnold's making some weird plays here and there, some errant throws, throwing interceptions. It's hard to run the ball on them, but I think Caleb Williams can maybe do some things through the air. The Bears looked a lot more lively against the Packers. And that's the thing with these divisional games, man. You see, this is why it's so tough to handicap the NFL, because you'll see a team that looks dead for 3 straight weeks, 4 straight weeks, and then they get a divisional opponent and they get up for the game. And you saw that. The Bears covered the 6, the 5, whatever you had. They covered every number last week against the Packers and really should have won the game outright. So I think the same thing happens here in this game. I think this is probably a 3-point game or the Bears win. So I like Chicago +3.5. I like a sprinkle on the money line as well. They've lost a lot of games in a row now, but changing offensive play callers typically doesn't have a huge impact like head coach change does, but that one seemed to spark them. The play calling change seemed to spark them, and they looked a lot better offensively against the Packers, who were coming out of their bye week. So now back-to-back divisional home games for the Bears. I think, in theory, if you say a team gets an average team gets 2 divisional home games as a dog in both games, wouldn't you think they tend to split those? Maybe this is the one they get. So I lean to the Bears, and I lean to the Bears on the money line. Actually, I think is probably a plus EV bet. All right, the Titans, another divisional game. Titans are in Houston, getting 8 points. Tennessee +8, totals at 42. The Texans broke their losing streak last night with a big win over the Cowboys, blowout win, basically a blowout win. And now they come back home laying a big number in a divisional game. And again, I tell you the same thing. I lean to the Titans +8. The Titans played, I thought, well against the Vikings. The box scores and stats can be misleading. So watching clips and highlights or watching the full games themselves is very beneficial if you're handicapping. I thought Titans played well. They had some life on offense. So the defense was strong. I think they could stay in this game. Another divisional game where I wouldn't be surprised if it comes right down to the very end. And the Titans, Titans and the Tech. Yeah, 8 is too much here. I'd play this at anything above 7. So I haven't officially played anything yet for Sunday, by the way, disclaimer, but I'm eyeing a lot of plays, and this is one of them. So like I'm eyeing the Patriots, the Bears. This is one of the plays. A lot of gross dogs I like this week. This feels like one of those weeks, guys. Week 12, later in the season, teams start to get a little bit complacent. Bettors start to get a little bit complacent. And these are when the ugly dogs start to really, really strike and burn a couple of these teams. So I think the Titans +8 will probably be in this game to the very end. Another divisional game. See, here we go. Cowboys at Commanders getting 10.5 points. Totals at 45.5. Totally insane point spread here, 10.5 points. Do I want to lay 10.5 with Washington? I know their offense is explosive. No, I don't want to, and I don't want to take 10.5 with the Cowboys. But if you forced me, I'd probably go with the Dallas side plus 10.5 just as a desperation spot. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe a little bit of a lean to the over. You saw last night that the Cowboys cannot stop anybody, and the Commanders actually can run the ball pretty well with Robinson and with Daniels' mobility. So I think they should be able to score a bunch of points in this game. I don't. There's a bunch of weak, later divisional games where the unders hit, and I would lean under, but this is not one of them. I actually think this one will have some points in it. So because I'm also not sold on that Washington defense. I think they've been overperforming for a large part of the season and have faced a lot of weaker teams. And the Cowboys are a weaker team, but you might just need 14 points from them in this one to hit the over. So slight lean here. I'm really torn on the spread. I can't even say slight lean to the Cowboys. I can't really pick on this spread. I think it's set right. I would slightly lean to the over. Another divisional game, the Raiders and the Broncos. Denver's on the road laying 5.5 in Vegas. Totals at 41. And this one is another classic, very simple handicap. Give me the Raiders plus 5.5. Haven't bet it yet. I'm looking strongly at it. But man, how do you, if you are looking to bet the Broncos, how do you get a game where the Broncos play a divisional opponent, the Chiefs, cover the spread, and nearly win the game on a field goal at the end, but it gets blocked, right? Then you go back home and you annihilate the Falcons. The perfect game at home. Bo Nix plays unbelievably well. Now you go on the road to a divisional opponent and you're laying almost a full touchdown. No way. It's a clear fade spot for the Broncos. This is one of those games where the side is obvious, and even if Denver wins by like 10 plus, you made the right bet. So for me, it's Raiders plus 5.5 or nothing in this game. I don't think this is getting to 6, and this is why I say that. If looking at the market and the way it's moving, I don't think you're going to see a 6. If I thought you were going to see a 6, I would wait and try to get the 6. 41 actually would lean a little bit to the under, but it's such a low number, man. The books have adjusted on a lot of these under trends, which is why you're seeing overs hit a bit more this season. But definitely leaning to the Raiders in this game. All right, the 49ers on the road against the Green Bay Packers. Talk about a season that is up in the balance, hanging in the balance right now for San Francisco after a bad loss to the Seahawks. The Packers are laying 2.5, totals at 48. I like Green Bay in this game. Should have grabbed it when it was -1 at the start or -1.5, but just waited to see. But I do think the Packers. Now, remember, if you have a power rating system like I do, and you're ranking these teams, I have the 49ers, I think, a point above the Green Bay. But Green Bay is one of the home fields where you would give 3 full points. So I give 3 full points for Lambeau, 2.9, whatever, 3 points. So I've got this at Green Bay -2. So it's a little bit, it's right there where, but -2 to -2.5 is not really a huge deal because you're sitting below the key number of 3. So the main time that you should be considering line value is when you're around the key numbers. If you're below it, I still like Green Bay in this spot. I've talked about reasons why I don't like the 49ers this year. Like one of my futures is under their win total, which looks great right now. And I just thought that they were a team that was due for one of those dead, emotionally spent seasons. Like this team just looks, too many injuries have come back to plague them. They don't have enough. The play calling doesn't work anymore. Like the trickery, like the running game that used to be so great for them in the red zone is just gone. All the same looks are not there anymore. It's the NFL. You have when you're really, really good, you have a small window. Who's in that window right now? Detroit. Detroit's in that window, and they know it. The Chiefs are one team that's been immune to that window. They've just been good, consistently good. They keep finding ways. But teams like Detroit, teams like Buffalo, Baltimore, they're in a small window, and they don't have many more years of being able to play at this level. I think the 49ers are approaching the end of that window where they may just need a reset year. This could be the reset year. So I think Green Bay, more of an up-and-coming team. And remember, this is a rematch from the playoff game last year where the Packers had a big lead and squandered it. They were a huge dog in that game. Remember, they were like a 10-point dog after they beat Dallas on the road. Came into San Francisco, covered the 10 easily, and could have won the game outright. This could be a revenge spot for them. I like the Packers here. Strong home field, strong offensively. And remember, don't be fooled by that. They come out of the bye, they only put up 20 points against the against the Bears. Don't be fooled by that game. Why? It's a divisional game. They hit different. Divisional games are just different. It's played differently. This is going to be, I think, a spot where the Packers could send a message. They've kind of been overlooked a little bit this season. We all talk about Philly. We talk about Detroit. We were talking about San Francisco for a while. This could be the chance for the Packers to say, hey, we're in that. We're right up there in the NFC. So don't be so fast on just thinking it's Detroit and Philly. I like Green Bay. I like Green Bay in the game. Arizona at Seattle, another divisional game. The Cardinals are getting a point against the Seahawks, and the total's at 47.5. Doesn't this just feel like an over game? It feels like it's going to fly over, but here's why I'm hesitant about it. I think this Seattle Seahawks defense, which you saw what they did on Sunday against the 49ers, is sneaky good. Now that they're healthy, they are sneaky good. Their season-long defensive metrics are a little bit skewed by the fact that they've been dealing with injuries for most of the year. And now that they're getting healthy on both sides with Metcalf back, I think they're formidable. And Arizona had the bye week, has won 3 games in a row. But man, if there's anybody that can defend or can figure out some kind of scheme to limit Kyler Murray a little bit, it's got to be Mike McDonald, right? He spent all that time in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. I got to think he's got to come up with something or devise something. He's got a lot of talent on that defense, something to contain the mobility of Kyler Murray and shut down this running game a little bit of the Cardinals, because that's really what's gotten them to this point where they're leading the division. And this is a huge game for the NFC West because the 49ers are not – I don't think they're winning that division. So one of these two teams is going to win that division. So this is a massive game. I lean to the Seahawks -1 in it. And I think that was such a big win for them on Sunday. So I worry a little bit about the letdown, but I think the matchup here is good for their offense. And I think defensively, that's the angle that I'm taking here. I'm thinking Mike McDonald, with all his experience in Baltimore, should know how to defend someone like Kyler Murray. This was a pick. Now Seattle's laying a point, so there's been a little bit of movement, but it's nothing crazy. But lean to the Seahawks in that game. All right, the Eagles are on the road this is your Sunday night football game. Eagles at Rams. Philly's laying 2.5 or 3, depending on the book you look at, and the total's 50.5. I'll keep this one short and sweet. The line looks trappy. I know, like, a lot of people will talk about there's no such thing as trap lines, and I agree. There's not like some group of people in the back room trying to trap you at these sports books, but there are some lines that are psychologically a trap to square bettors or casual bettors that think, like, they overthink it. Like, oh, 2.5, it's 2. I only get to lay 2.5 with Philly. Yeah, that's a smash, hammer it. And then what happens? The Rams end up winning. This happened with that Minnesota game, Rams Vikings on Thursday Night Football, where the Rams went outright as a 2.5-point dog or a 3-point dog. But for me, this is a spot where I don't overthink it. I like Philly. I think Philly's the far better team. I lean a little bit over as well in this game. I think there'll be a lot of points. Now, the one thing I'll say about the Philly defense is that they haven't really been pushed yet. Out of the bye, they had I think that win against the Browns. They had a win against the Jaguars. I forget who the third team was, but it was like 3 pretty weak opponents, and then they go for the divisional game against the Commanders. But Jaden Daniels is not playing 100%; he's hurt. So they really haven't faced like a pocket passing, healthy quarterback that can throw darts, and that's what they're going to get in this game with a lot of weapons, right? Kupp and Nakua are going to be big in this game. I think Stafford can throw the ball in this Eagles defense. And just whenever you hear the noise getting too loud, guys, around a team, man, the Eagles secondary is so good. These rookies they drafted, Kenyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, that's when you start to sell the news. So I think Stafford will throw the ball on them. I could see a game going over, but I still think Philly has the advantage on the other side as well. So I would lean slightly to the Eagles -2.5 and a little bit as well to the over in this game. But this is a big game for the Eagles. They have to keep their momentum going. If they throw up a dud in this game, and by the way, the Rams home field is going to come into play here because they don't have one. There's going to be a ton of Eagles fans at this game. And both LA teams don't really have a strong home field. So watch out for that as well. Small lean to Philly, small lean to the over. Monday Night Football is our final game. The Ravens at Chargers. Baltimore laying 2.5 or 3, depending on where you look, and the total's at 51. Another high total. And again, it's a non-divisional, just like the previous one, a non-divisional game with two very good offenses. I would lean over again, even though it's pretty high. But I think the Ravens here could send a message. Now, this is a huge game because you've got the two brothers coaching, Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. Herbert looked amazing on Sunday. Some of those throws were ridiculous that he was making. He should, and it's kind of crazy, but he should get the similar looks against the Ravens passing defense, which is just not good. They just played a low-scoring game against the Steelers, but that's, again, a divisional game. But on the other side, you saw what happened to the Chargers defense. Like, they came out strong early in that game, but you saw what happened once a good offense made a few adjustments on them. They gave up a ton of points. So I think this is another one of those games. On the Chargers, I talked about last week how they really haven't played anybody good offensively. Then they got a good offensive team on Sunday, and it was 27-27 in the fourth quarter. And yes, they made stops at the end, but since he was moving the ball on them, Burrow missed a couple of easy throws that could have won them the game. But my point is here now another good offense that I think will be able to put up points on them. So my only thing here is, can LA keep up if they're playing from behind? They haven't had that yet. Now, they were playing from in front on Sunday Night Football. They let the team back into the game. When they're playing from behind, that's going to be really interesting for me because they haven't been in that position yet this season. So I would look to the Ravens here. I think could be another. Now, you've got a bunch of trends, by the way. Lamar -3 or better. I mean, I could go, they're all 70% plus. Lamar in prime time, Lamar -3 or better. Lamar is a road favorite. You've got all of those trends active on this. But the Chargers are an up-and-coming team. Brother versus brother coach is a very interesting game, but I think this could be a statement game for the Ravens. You come off of a loss. You can't afford to lose any more games, man. You're falling behind in the division. Luckily, the other two teams stink, but you may not catch the Steelers now. So this is a must-win game. And the Steelers get the Browns. So if the Steelers win, right, this is one of those games where I may even wait. Now that I'm thinking about it, I may even wait and say, what happens if the Steelers win on Thursday Night Football? Maybe there's an increased sense of urgency for the Ravens to get this game on Monday night. So I would lean to Baltimore and I would lean to the over. All right, guys, that is week 12 in the NFL. Let me know down in the comments what plays you guys are looking at. Like I said, just a quick recap on the plays that I'm considering betting, even though I haven't bet them yet. New England +7 is one that I'm looking at. Chicago +3.5. Tennessee +8. Las Vegas +5.5. Green Bay -2.5. Seattle -1. Those are right there a bunch of the plays that I'm strongly considering. A lot of those that I just said will probably end up being bets for me. So just to give you an idea. All right. Good luck with your bets this weekend. Thanks for watching. As always, don't forget the link for the Action Network app is down in the description if you want to get my free plays that I end up posting for the weekend. And I'll catch you guys next week for the following week in the NFL. Thanks for watching.